Yep, there are people out there that think this is a good game. Brutal Paws of Fury is a fighting game that was released on the Sega CD in 1994. For quite a while, I thought that this series' first appearance was on the 16-bit consoles. But no, it would be the Sega CD game that would go on to have multiple ports. In this video, we will be going over Brutal Paws of Fury for the Sega CD, and Brutal Unleashed Above the Claw for the Sega 32X. I've already done the video on the Sega Genesis port, but I think I can do a much better job explaining the game this time around. Thankfully, the Sega Genesis and 32X ports are very similar gameplay-wise. With that said, we'll be going over the 32X game first, because despite being an upgraded version of the original game, it's worse than the Sega CD version by far. And if I have to end the video on this, yeah, let's just get into the controls. They're exactly what you expect from a 6-button game. The X, Y, and Z buttons are your punches, while the A, B, and C buttons are your kicks. As for playing this game on a 3-button controller, I'll get into that later. The goal is rather simple: defeat 14 opponents in a set order to finish the game. You'll start with no special moves, but you'll learn the special move after winning 2 fights. The game will demonstrate how to do the move, and then you have to perform it at least once in order to learn it. Then when you're ready, you can press start to move on to the next fight. However, if you're playing this on a 3-button controller, you're screwed. The start button doesn't take you to the next match. It instead changes your buttons from punching to kicking and vice versa. Seriously, let's think about this. The manual itself mentions a 3-button controller, the game shows a 3-button controller for the demonstrations, and the passports did not have this issue at all. How the you know what, never mind, let's just get back into the gameplay. Like the Genesis port, combos do not exist, highs and lows do not exist, and heavy attacks done on the ground are still unblockable. Granted, if you were blocking before a heavy attack hits you, it will greatly reduce the damage it could have dealt otherwise. Blocking is done by holding back and down, or forward and down at the same time. So if you want to crouch block, you will have to crouch first before holding the directions. Blocking isn't very good due to unblockables, but they can shrink your hitbox, making you harder to hit. Special moves are similar to the Genesis port as well, but the way they work is very strange compared to most fighters. The first move that you will learn in the single player is Taunt. This will leave you open for a brief moment, but it will instantly recover some health. The amount would depend on the character, as slapping your ass is clearly more invigorating than showing your underwear. As for other special moves, they're all over the place. Some can be blocked, some are unblockable, some are invincible and unblockable, some will track the opponent's location.
Whoa, what? Wait, what? Can I? What?
And some will flat out not work if the opponent is in an animation. They could be attacking, blocking, or even dizzy from taking too much damage. It won't hurt them or activate at all. The best special moves tend to be the unblockable and invincible ones, while the worst special moves are the katas. Katas are mostly a series of attacks that will happen automatically upon performing the command. I've never seen the CPU use these, and I don't blame them. Not only can you perform these katas yourself by doing the move separately, but some of these katas will put you in a dizzy state, or worse yet, take some of your health away. They are the worst moves by far, and I don't ever recommend using them. And yeah, there's not much else to this game. I will be commentating over the long play, but if you want a full move list that also has a completed password for each character, you can check the guide in the description below. Alright, and this is Brutal Unleashed Above the Claw for the 32X. Now I am commentating over a run I already did, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to talk about for this whole entire run since I mostly did the same thing over and over. But there were 2 or 3 fights that where I did have to mix it up a little bit. Not really, it's still me spamming the same 2 or 3 moves, but I'll get into that as we go along. So the first thing I do is go to the options, and I want to show off the difficulty levels because this was played on the max difficulty. But to show you what we are dealing with here, we have white belt, red, yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black, and it goes all the way up to 6th Dan. That's a lot of difficulties, and 6th Dan is most definitely harder than white belt, so you know, it is what it is. Now for the number of rounds, I'm leaving it to single because being that I am going to be using the same moves over and over, it would just be like double the length if I put it on best of 3. So for this long play and for the Sega CD long play, I just put it to single round just to make this a bit more bearable to watch. So start a new character or enter a password. If you have a password ready, you can actually like resume your progress. Well, you still start at the beginning, but you keep all the moves you have learned up until that point. So the roster, we have Kung Fu Bunny with the right understanding. He's pretty decent. He's alright. Prince Leon, right effort. He's very obnoxious. Tai Cheetah, mindfulness. He has some pretty good unblockable attacks. Rhei Rat, right speech. He has a very nasty unblockable attack that can one-shot if you jump into it. Pantha, right meditation. Never really messed with him all that much, but he does have a fireball, which is rare. Kendo Coyote. He's okay, I guess. He doesn't have a whole lot. I'm not gonna say anything about this character. We will play as her in the Sega CD Longplay. Ivan the Bear. A lot of strength. He's really strong. He has the best normals in the game in terms of strength. Karate Croc, he's okay, I guess. Absolutely broken. Dali Llama is just ridiculously strong in this game. Chung Poe, who's actually a dragon. He's pretty good too. He's actually really strong as well. And of course, Psycho Kitty, who I will be playing as in this long play. Now, I do have to mention that I don't think Psycho Kitty is that good for getting through the one-player mode. If you're going through the one-player mode, I highly recommend Dali Llama. He's just ridiculously strong. He gets one of the best moves in the game, and yeah. So you see on the bottom left, I was actually changing the karma there. The karma there. And it doesn't actually do anything. This is something you can do in the Sega Genesis version as well, and the Sega CD version, but changing the karma doesn't seem to like affect anything. The gameplay, your character, I don't know what it does. I assume it was like a leftover thing that the developers never got to fully realize and they just left it in there, but as far as I know, the karma does nothing from like changing it from red or whatever. And yeah, you can already see the strategy that I'm using here. I'm just walking forward and doing back kicks. And I specifically say back kick because there are command normals in this game. Everyone has at least like one. Most characters have two, but I think there's 1 or 2 characters that only have one command normal. I could be wrong. And the command normal I was using there was back and heavy kick. Specifically heavy kick because, again, because it's still a heavy attack on the ground, it is unblockable. Now, one thing I do like about this game that does shows the stats after you play through a match. Looks like we're facing against ourselves already. But that's the thing though, the game, the fights are always in a set order, so no matter who you're using or who you're playing as, Psycho Kitty will always be the second fight. But yeah, I do like that after the match it does show like, you know, how many punches were thrown, kicks, like other attacks, and like the accuracy of the attacks and where they hit. I don't know if where the attacks hit are important. I've never really delved into that, mainly because like, look at what I'm doing here. It's the same thing over and over. You just walk forward and then press back and heavy kick. Now, the reason why I think Psycho Kitty is kind of hard to beat the game with is because even though he has a small hitbox, which is really useful, his normal attacks don't go as far as they should. So it leads to certain fights where even that long kick, it actually can't reach certain characters, especially if they're like blocking, because again, blocking does reduce your hitbox. I'll get into that later. So that was 2 fights, so we do learn the first move, which will always be taunt, which is A and B. Now, before I never really made use of this move, but this move can actually be like really clutch in some scenarios, especially if you're using a character like Foxy Roxy who gets like 20% health over using the taunt, which is ridiculous. I don't think it's worth using in a 2-player match, like just no, but I do think against the CPU it can be very useful because there are times where they just sit there full screen and they won't do anything, or better yet, maybe they'll taunt back and that'll be a chance to get them. So yeah, we'll be using this strategy a lot. It's just walk forward and back kick. And if I was using, wow, that did a lot of damage. If I was using Foxy Roxy for this long play in particular, it would have went way smoother because like her attacks have more reach, which I think is very important for a game where heavy attacks are flat out unblockable and can knock you down. But again, this is a 32X port, and you know, one of the selling points is that it has 2 new characters and then a strategy mini game, which I don't feel is worth talking about. I don't know if I'll show it. I don't even know if it's even worth showing. But pretty much it's like a team-based mini game where you pick certain characters and like they're on a map, and then you go like around the map to fight each other, and like health doesn't recover unless you're standing on like a triangle. And then if you win on one of the triangles, you can like pick one of the boss characters to add to your team, like Dali, Llama, or Chung Poe. But I ain't gonna talk about that. So the second move we learned is furball. This is done by doing half circle back. No buttons, you just do half circle back and it comes out. Like that's it. Now this move is really good for Psycho Kitty. 2 reasons. It's unblockable and it's invincible. However, because this is Psycho Kitty and not all things are good, it doesn't have a lot of horizontal range, which means that some characters can actually avoid this by blocking, or even by standing at certain points. So the strategy I'm using now, especially against this fight, is unfortunately, wow, that was really messy. What I do for this fight is I knock down Tai Cheetah, and I slightly delay the furball so that it makes him want to like attack on a wake up, and that attack will like extend his hitbox, making it easier for me to do furball to hit him. Because if you do furball right away, like before he gets up, usually he just blocks it, and because he's blocking, he actually doesn't get hit by it. Which is the case for this fight right here, which is one of the hardest fights if you're using Psycho Kitty, by far. This fight is tough. So instead of me just going for the long kick, like just by itself, I'm instead doing a jump attack to keep him in block, and then I'm doing the long kick to knock him down. And I'm doing this, I don't care, it doesn't matter how slow this is. I know this looks really slow and annoying, but this is the best strategy I found because Leon is very, very hard to deal with in this game in particular. Especially since the default speed for this game, I think it's set to, I didn't show the speed settings. I don't want to spoil what the name of the speed setting is yet because it's kind of ridiculous. It is most definitely higher than Turbo though, because this is really, really fast. And I know that for sure that the Sega Genesis and the CD versions are nowhere near this fast unless you know, change the speed settings. So yeah, this strategy right here, always keep this strategy in mind if you play any, and I mean any of the Brutal Paws of Fury ports. This is, no matter who you're using, this is such an effective strategy. Just jump kick into a heavy attack, no matter what. So, the third move you'll learn is cat fight. This is half circle forward. There is no button press. You just do a half circle forward and it comes out. It's just as good as furball because it's also invincible and unblockable. But I find that like furball, it doesn't, like some characters can just not get hit by it by blocking. And yeah. So for this fight, I do a similar thing where against Tai Cheetah, you get a knockdown on Kung Fu Bunny and then you keep doing furball when they get up and it should hit them. But I can't stress enough, if you're not good at doing motions, like if you have trouble doing half circle, because you can see right there, I was doing that motion really quick, like half circle back, half circle back, half circle back. If you have trouble doing that, I can't recommend it enough. Just stick with jump kicks into heavy attacks. It's so useful across all the ports. And it's very important since like you don't ever start with special moves in the first place. So either way, like you're gonna need some kind of like answer for dealing with these CPUs without any special moves, especially in the beginning. So this is a very useful tactic, and I'm gonna be real here. This fight, it was just not going my way. I know what I wanted to do to win, but I just could not get it to happen. I almost got it to happen there. You can see an example where like I did the move cat fight, but Kendo Coyote was blocking, so he just didn't get hit by it. Damn, I feel like I was talking forever. I'm sorry if I'm talking so fast, but like, I guess there's more to talk about than I thought. Go figure. Anyways, I'm pretty sure I actually lost 2 continues here, which is fine. I wasn't expecting to I didn't go into this long play expecting to get a no miss run. If I was using someone like Foxy Roxy or Dali Llama, like just pick Dali Llama. He's the best. All right, I prefer him over Foxy Roxy if anything, but. And again, since this is a 32X version, he's technically a fair character to use since, like, it's not like you need a cheat code to unlock him. He's just there, so there's really no reason to, like, not pick Dali Llama. Just pick him. It'll make this game so much easier. His normals do an insane amount of damage if they land, and he has a really broken special move. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting to get a no-miss run of Psycho Kitty. It'd be much more durable with like Fox Roxy or Dali Llama or even some of the other characters, mainly because they have more ranges than what Psycho Kitty has. But this is a strategy I was trying to do. It was very similar to when I fought Tai Cheetah. It was to get a knockdown, and then slightly delay Furball so that it makes Kendo Coyote attack, which will extend his hitbox and make Furball land. Whereas if I didn't delay it, he would probably just block and it'll miss completely. So this is the fourth move. It's kind of lame. By pressing A and C together, he will run to the other side. Now this move is a pretty good wake, like in versus mode I think it's actually pretty good because it lets Psycho Kitty get out of the corner for free. Because he is invincible during that entire animation, so you could use it to like trip up the opponent and like get a side switch going. Assuming you want to play this competitively, I have no idea why you want to do that. But yeah, for Foxy Roxy, I just spammed Furball. You don't even have to delay it for this fight, I just kept doing it. Like she would just get hit by it. And again, even though I am doing this move that requires a constant half circle back motions, you can still beat this game by just jump kick, heavy attack, jump kick, heavy attack, jump kick, heavy attack. Do that for every single like if you even think about ever playing this game on any port, just do that, okay? Like you just jump kick into heavy kick, and even if you can't beat the game with it, it will get you so far, trust me. And you'll be seeing so much of that in the Sega CD Longplay. But I ain't gonna talk about that yet since we are still on the 32x1. So for this fight, I was actually showing off the cat fight special move. Again, similar to Furball, it looks like it should have a ton of range because of the big hitbox, but because of how collision, maybe it's just how collision works in this game, it just doesn't get quite close enough. So now we learned our first kata, which is hold B and then press BC, if I didn't miss that. It's garbage. You can see right here, kick, jump, and dizzy. Why would you ever do this? You can do that same move by holding back and pressing I think that was medium kick. That didn't look like heavy kick, but just back medium kick, jump, and you won't get dizzy. So why would you ever do a kata that's literally 4 inputs pretty much, and then it makes you dizzy? Don't do it. I don't know what they were thinking with the katas in this game, because I'm not gonna talk about it. All right, you get the point. You're smart, and if you are smart, then please acknowledge that this game has some freaking problems. but yeah, I can't stress enough how much I hate this game. It's weird though, because like it has good stuff in it. It really does, like. But I'm gonna talk about that later. I'm probably gonna dedicate like a small segment to like, this is a small part of this video, to like talking about how I feel about this series as a whole. So I won't even get into that yet. I don't want you to think that like I think this is the worst fighting game ever or whatever. I played far worse than this, so I'll talk about that later. All right. Now, thankfully against Chung Poe, we can go back to our original strategy that we used in stage 1, which is just walk forward and then back kick. Walking forward is very important because even though the back, wow, I'm like literally at 1 HP. Because even though the back kick actually moves Psycho Kitty forward a little bit, sometimes it still won't reach. So it's better to just move forward just in case, and then back kick them in order to hit them. And coming up should be the final boss soon, our last kata, which is hold C and then BA. Again, it's useless. It's just a bunch of jumping and jabs. You can do this yourself. I don't know why you'd ever want to do this and then become dizzy afterwards. I'm pretty sure it takes away health too. And yeah, I was even showing there for a bit that you can just mash jab and get the same result. So there are 2 fights left. Now, I'm going to mention this now. If you want to, for some characters, I mean, I might as well talk about this now since this is exactly the same fight. Some characters have a bunch of moves, like they'll have whatchamacallit. Some characters will have more moves than Psycho Kitty, and you might be wondering, well, how I'm gonna learn all those moves if there are only 14 opponents? Well, the thing is, after the ending and the credits, the game loops back to the first fight, and you can keep playing from there to learn whatever moves like you didn't get yet, but should probably be like at least 1 more, so you probably have to win 16 fights in total. And another thing is that if you get game over, you can actually you can still continue, but it'll send you back to the beginning of the game, but you'll still have whatchamacallit, you'll still have your moves, so you can still grind them out while starting from the beginning. Now this is the final boss. If you was expecting anything different, you'd be wrong. I just keep spamming cat fight. And that is it. That is Brutal Unleashed above the claw for the 32X. Like, I just spam the same move over and over, and it's done. Now, coming up is one final kata to learn for Psycho Kitty, and instead of showing the ending for Psycho Kitty, I'm actually going to save that for the end when I show all of the endings for the Sega CD and 32X ports. So yeah, that is it for Brutal Unleashed. Coming up will be the Sega CD port, and I hope to see you there. The Sega CD port is more or less the same deal, but it does have some major differences that make it both better and worse than the other ports. There's no need for me to mention the controls and the gameplay again, so I'll just talk about the differences specifically. Obviously there's no Psycho Kitty this time, so I'll be playing through this game as Foxy Roxy, because when I think of Brutal Paws of Fury, I think of an anthropomorphic fox that totally isn't the reason some people love this game. As for the gameplay, there are some very interesting differences here. First off, unblockable attacks are not present. The attacks that were unblockable in the other ports still deal chip damage, but you can actually block these attacks this time around. This makes me wonder, what were the devs thinking? What exactly caused them to make the decision that attacks that deal chip should become unblockable? I don't know for sure, but my guess is that it makes blocking way more useful here. It's still not worth blocking against the AI, but due to the lack of highs and lows, blocking might be incredibly good in a 2-player match. Unfortunately, I will never know because the 2-player mode doesn't have any of the special moves available. Like the 1-player mode, you will have to enter a password to have your moves unlocked. This makes starting a 2-player match way slower than it should be, and I lost all interest in wanting to try this game against a friend. Of course, there are the animated cutscenes, a few other bonuses, and the special move motions being the modern equivalent of a raging demon, but the game is still the same at heart. Like with the other ports, I got through this game by spamming the same moves over and over. As usual, you can always check the description if you want a guide that contains the full move list and passwords for each character. Alright, so this is Brutal Paws of Fury for the Sega CD. I am commentating over a run I already did, like with the 32X Longplay. And you wouldn't be able to tell from just looking at that screen, but I was actually doing 2 cheat codes there. One cheat code allows you to unlock Karate Croc, and the other cheat code allows you to unlock Dali Llama. I won't be using these characters, but I did want to show them off in the character select, which will come up soon. Now, if you can't tell from this demonstration, the gameplay to this game is very, very slow. So we will be increasing the speed and the options to make it a bit more faster. And as usual, we will be playing on the max settings. We'll be playing on the highest difficulty. We're gonna set the speed to turbo, and we will be setting the rounds to best of 1 because, again, I still use the same strategy of like jump kick into heavy attack, so I really don't want it to be 2 rounds of me doing the same thing over and over. But yeah, you can see it right there. I changed this to 6 Dan, and then I'm going to change the game speed and number of rounds, and coming up soon is going to be another animation for the intro. Because when you start the game, you get one, or I think you get like 2 more cutscenes. And to say they're interesting would be an understatement, so hope you stick around for that because, man, if you ask me, I think the intro coming up has pretty sure I've said this in the past, but the best way I can describe it is too many frames of animation.
Across the globe, invitations were delivered.
I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be laughing. Holy shit. Oh man. This is really good. Oh no, I gotta calm down. I gotta calm down. No matter how many times I see this intro, that face,
Welcome.
that face is the best. Oh my goodness, I'm freaking crying right now. All right, so after that intro, you get whatever this is. I don't know what happened to the budget. I guess he was trying to do some like 3D animation, like with polygons. Oh geez, I gotta catch my breath. But yep, it's just I don't know how to explain this. I guess he was trying to showcase the island that we're going to fight on, and they should show Dali Llama on the top very soon. And I guess I will say this about this game: the OST, the music, is 1,000 times better than whatever they was trying to do with the Sega Genesis version and the 32X. The 32X version by far is the absolute worst. I still don't like the Genesis one either, but the 32X version with its like 8-second loops was driving me insane, yo. Anyways, finally the game begins. So, as usual, we are not going to be using any passwords. We're just going to start from fresh with no special moves. I still think that you should personally use a password just to make it even with the CPU, because it is a really unfair handicap. And of course, we do have the usual characters here, with the exclusion of Chung Poe and Psycho Kitty, as they were 32X exclusives. However, the Pantha, one thing interesting is the Pantha and Karate Croc is they're actually they're not in the Sega Genesis version, and I don't think they're in the Super Nintendo version either, which is pretty interesting. I could be wrong about the Pantha, maybe. I think he was in the Super Nintendo version. Maybe I'm wrong. But he definitely wasn't in the Sega Genesis version, along with Karate Croc. Of course, for this playthrough, I will be using Foxy Roxy. She is, she's technically my best character, if I'm being real. But pretty much nearly any character can work as long as they have some good range. So, something interesting about the screen, as usual, you can change the karma. This does nothing. If it does something, then I'd love to know the answer, because I couldn't figure it out. But another interesting fact is you can press A to switch your character. Now, I don't recommend doing this mid-game because it will cause you to forget all moves if you go with switching your character. So if you learned a lot of moves with one character and then you switched it, you're pretty much screwed. But the interesting part about this mechanic, you can switch your opponent's character. So, if you wanna breeze through this game like butter, you can pick an opponent that you know you can beat over and over, like the easiest CPU, which to me would be maybe Tai Cheetah or Rhei Rat, I don't know, it depends. But yeah, like if you get up to like Dali Llama, for example, and then you switch him to like, let's say you switch him to Tai Cheetah, right? And then you beat Tai Cheetah, it will still show the defeat screen of like Dali Llama losing, and you will still get your character's ending. So if you want to breeze through this game, then the trick would be to like switch your opponent's character to someone you know you can beat consistently. However, I will not be doing that for this long play. I am going to keep this as normal as possible. And yeah, this is the first fight. So the major difference of this game, as I mentioned before, there are actually for me the Longplay is actually a little bit loud, so let me lower it down a bit. So the main difference, heavy attacks done on the ground are blockable, but they still deal chip. So what's the strat for this game? Well, just because they only deal chip, that does not stop the player from jump kicking into sweep, which is going to be my bread and butter for this entire long play. I do switch it up a little bit when I get a better move, kind of like I did with Psycho Kitty, where I got furball and spinball in order furball and spinball, furball and catfight, I should say, in order to like defeat the opponents quicker, especially since they're unblockable and invincible switching moves. But for now, with Foxy Roxy, your bread and butter is going to be jump kick, especially jump heavy kick, into crouching sweep, which is, you know, crouch heavy kick. It's a very slow process, but you can see that Tai Cheetah's health is getting low. And after a few more hits, he should be defeated. There we go. And another cool thing about this trick is that sometimes they will, the CPU will try to hit back, but you should be able to hit them out of it, which means you get some free damage in since I actually got hit instead of blocking it. Now 102 kicks, holy crap. But yeah, that is going to be our bread and butter for the entire long play. Tai Cheetah knelt down and prepared himself for the journey home. It would be good to see his family again. He had won many things, but he had lost his pupil. So that's one cool thing about this port that I don't think is in any of the other ports. I mean, I wouldn't know since I think the only port I haven't played is the Amiga version. Assuming that's like the last port remaining, because I know I played the MS-DOS, all of the Sega ports, and I don't have any videos on this channel on the Super Nintendo port, but I did remember playing it when I was younger, and I did actually finish it. But yeah, I think the only one I haven't played is the Amiga port. So what can I say? You see, there's a problem. I'm still going to be using the same strategy over and over, so I'm not exactly sure what else to talk about in this long play in particular. I feel like everything I wanted to say I already said in the 32X long play. So, oh yeah, that's right. So I was gonna mention this. One thing cool about this part is that yeah, it does have defeat screens for every character, which again I don't think it's present in any of the other ports. And as I mentioned in the character select, like in the versus screen, even if you switch your opponent, you'll still get the original defeat quote it was supposed to be. So for example, you see that the second fight is against Rhei Rat, right? But if you switch him to, let's say, again, Tai Cheetah, and you beat Tai Cheetah, you'll still get the defeat screen of Rhei Rat. So, you know, either way, when you're playing through this game, you will see all of them, because unlike the 32X game, which has like repeat fights, like you even saw in the last few fights, I had to face Chung Poe twice. There are only 10 fights in this port, so you actually face all of the characters once, with the last one being the Dali Llama. So I guess in that sense, you know, I feel that less is more. It makes it a bit more bearable. Rhei turned away. Shamed and defeated, he would give his opponent no glory. Like, man, you see, that's what I hate about this series. There's effort here. There is effort. Like, man, I'll talk about it later. I don't want to talk about it now. Let me just focus on what's going on the screen, which is Foxy Roxy slapping her ass. Look, if you like this character, that's great. Get more power to you. I like this character too, but listen, that doesn't make the game good. Okay, like, great, it's a fox of boobs, but come on, guys, let's be a little more mature here and not get distracted by the character designs and realize that the gameplay is fucked. Okay, can we agree on that at least? Like, if you like the gameplay, whatever. I don't know how, but good for you. But I can't do this. Like, hopefully this is the last time I ever have to play this game, unless for some godly reason I decide to do a long play in the SNES and Amiga ports, just to say I've like completely done everything I could with Brutal as a whole, with all the ports and all that. But frankly, I've had enough with this, so. But let me not talk about that right now. So sometimes you see me use this loop where I'm just walking forward with heavy kick. And you might be wondering why am I doing this even when it's missing? Well, the thing is, the AI loves to block whenever you attack, and if there's one thing that's always scary about the AI in this game is when they do stuff. So if you want to prevent them from doing anything, just keep whiffing heavy attacks. So what I'm doing here is this: after each heavy kick, I just slightly, very slightly delay the next one so that I can move a bit forward in order to like stay close enough to the AI. But I don't want to delay it too hard because like if you give them any amount of time to do stuff, they can get really aggressive. And obviously, we don't want that. Ivan slammed his fist into a tree in rage. Growling, he turned and stalked away. So I think we got about 7 fights left. And yeah, this is Leon. This is actually, is this the bridge stage? Because I'm pretty sure the bridge stage was like level 6 in the Genesis one, unless I'm completely wrong. Alright, but yeah, this is actually, okay, this is the bridge stage. Cool. So this stage is the most unique out of all the stages because it has one unique gimmick that I won't mention yet, but you are going to see it in action in a bit. So for this fight, I immediately go in with a jump kick and I slowly move forward. Again, even though I'm very far away, obviously like I'm not going to barely hit him from here, right? But with enough patience, you can ring him out. Yeah, this stage has ring outs and there's no other stage like it. And if I'm not wrong, I don't think the 32X version has this stage, so I don't think there are any ring outs in the 32X version, which is very interesting. Leon's aims flamed. So I am not the greatest in the world? Can it be that Kendo and Tai are better warriors than I? I cannot bear it. I cannot abide defeat. That is not my fate. I will return. I will triumph. I will never stop until all my foes are vanquished. Like, man, like they tried here. Like, what happened? I guess they weren't that experienced with actually making the fighting game itself, but like these guys should have went on to make like a cartoon show instead. That probably would have been way better, in my opinion. I'm not trying to like make fun or criticize the developers, alright? But yeah, that is the next move. Whiplash kick is done by pressing B and C. I should say press and releasing B and C, which is the case for many of these moves. It's shit. Don't use it. It doesn't do any chip from what I know, and it's definitely not an unblockable attack, like in any version, like even the Genesis and 32X version. So it's just the CPU will most likely duck it or just hit you out of it. So don't use this move. It's bad. Okay. Maybe it has some use in the versus mode, but again, I wouldn't know. I could not get anyone to play this with me except for that one time when I did that Sega Genesis Madness video. But yeah, it's a bad move. So, after defeating Leon with nothing but walking forward with heavy kicks, we now have to face Kendo Coyote with jump attack into crouching heavy kick. I feel like this fight is easy to lose in, kind of like in the 32X fight, because if Kendo gets going, he can go very crazy with the spin ball attack. Now, I can say this, when he does go nuts, blocking does... even though I think it's still useless against the AI, it can still be like helpful in preventing you from taking a bunch of damage. So if you're in like a weird spot where they're getting too aggressive, you can always try to block. Not against all opponents, especially Dali Llama, and I'll get into that fight when we get there, but for some cases, blocking isn't the worst option. It's still really good, I think. It's just against the AI, I'd much prefer just going at them. So this is actually a fight where I had to start taking advantage of. You see right there that actually I started blocking for once because in order to like prevent damage, and this is especially effective with Foxy Roxy because her taunt heals a lot of health. I went from having a low amount of health to having like nearly max health, and my health went back to being half. Like this is a very back and forth battle, as you can see, because there are times where Kendo Coyote is also taunting. But yeah, that is my advice, especially if you're using Foxy Roxy. If you can get full screen away from the CPU, I feel like they get more and more aggressive when you start moving around and attacking, especially if you're close by. But if you're full screen, you can just risk doing a taunt, and you can hold down and back just in case. Like maybe by the time the taunt ends, then they'll attack, and at least you'll be ready to block it. And yeah, taunting is just it's pretty helpful against the CPU. For some characters, it might not be as much, depending on like if they don't recover as much health. I don't know if I put the values in the, because I never knew the exact values when I did the Genesis guide, but I decided to open up BizHawk to see the raw numbers, and it turns out it goes by like some characters heal 5%, some heal 10 or 15, and the highest amount I've seen, for example, Foxy Roxy, is 20% health. But yeah, you can use the taunt full screen to recover some health, and then when you feel comfortable, you can go back to using jump kick into sweep. Again, very tedious process. I know this looks boring. This looks really lame. And you probably might, if you never played this game or seen it, you might be thinking I'm doing this on purpose. Like, I'm trying to make this game look awful. And, you know, I just have like some kind of vendetta against this game. I hate it so much, so I gotta make it look bad, right? You know, fighting game AI is bad in general, so why not use the cheapest thing? Alright, before I get into that topic, let me talk about this. Kendo knew what this meant. His defeat ensured that he would be doomed to appear on daytime television for 4 years at least. It would take that long to get his career back on track. He shook his head in shame. Elsewhere, Tai Cheetah shook his head in despair. So, yeah, it may seem like I'm trying to make this game look bad. Wow, what a color palette. I gotta focus. That didn't even focus. It might seem like I'm trying to make this game look bad, but you really have to play this way. If you try to play with quote-unquote strategy or like looking for openings, I don't know, man. It's just the best offense is still the only defense. You really don't want to give the CPU a chance to start moving around. It just gets chaotic. Like, I'm not doing this to make this game look awful. I'm doing this because I have no choice. Like, doing anything else is way too risky. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like, you can't try to like maybe delay light attacks in order to like stop them from like get them out of block, but it's so risky. If they decide to do anything crazy, especially against Dali Llama, you're just gonna get blasted for it. So like with the previous fights, I am using jump kicks into sweeps. And just like the Kendo Coyote fight in the 32X game, someone thought it was a pretty cool idea to have foreground objects block the action. And look, it's a cool effect, alright? It's cool. But cool effects can be annoying. Like this one. I think this is annoying. I want to see what attacks I'm... I mean, obviously I know what attacks I'm using. I know what buttons I'm pressing. I'm doing the same, like, 2 moves anyway. But, like, in a 2-player fight or something, like, I don't want stuff to get in the way. I just want to see the 2 characters. Like, it should be very visible. So I hate this stage so much. I never ever want to play it. Like, if for some reason I ever touch this game again, or, you know, played it against someone else, I do everything possible to avoid this stage. I hate it. It's awful. It looks cool, but it is annoying to fight in. Indra allowed the tears to roll down her cheeks. It was not the defeat she regretted, but now for her, the game was over. She would have to return to her job in the world, a much more serious job of saving children's lives. I think I didn't show that in a character select, so her real name is actually like Indra Prashman. Hopefully I'm not pronouncing that wrong. It also shows that in the manual too. And yeah, now we're getting an actual good move, which is spin attack, which is done by pressing back C. This is actually one of the moves I spammed in the Sega Genesis game. Is very good, and the Genesis version is actually unblockable, and you can just keep looping them over and over as they get up. And for this game, I'm actually going to, I should say for this long play, I actually do use it a lot up into Dali Llama. And I know I mentioned his name so many times, Dali Llama, but like he is a noob stomper. Like even if you know about the jump kick to crouching heavy kick, he can just kill your run and just eat all your continues. So, spinning attack. It's unblockable in the Genesis version, but this isn't the Genesis version, this is the Sega CD version. So, how does it work in this one? Well, instead of it being unblockable, it deals multiple hits on block, and if the hits land, like as they're blocking it, it does a surprising amount of chip damage as well. So hopefully you see that a bit. So you can see like Kung Fu Bunny is actually still losing a good amount of health from him blocking it. I'm trying to get into a situation where I can start using it. Alright, there we go. Beautiful. It even stunned him while he was still blocking it, which is very strange about this game. So there are no unblockables, but if you I don't know how Dizzy works in this game. Maybe I should go more into it. I think Dizzy is based on your health, maybe. Or if you just take damage in general. Kung Fu Bunny smiled, so it was in his nature to lose this fight. He bore no malice towards his foe. Both have done their duty and done their best. He had realized the fight as he now relished the peace. Kung Fu Bunny sat down and watched the world go by. By the way, it says lose this fight instead of lose. I don't know why. This game's... Man, I thought my guides had spelling errors, but holy shit. Anyways, coming up is the Pantha. This fight isn't too bad. I actually did struggle with this fight, like, back when I first tried this game, and... I mean, the Pantha is the only character to actually have a fireball, which is pretty interesting. But if you are losing a lot of health in this fight, again, you can always just resort to, like, jumping full screen away and then spamming taunt to get some of your health back. I think I do it in this fight. I don't remember for sure. But yeah, as usual, you can use spinning attack. It does a bunch of chip damage. And yeah, as I was talking about, I think that becoming dizzy in this game is just based on, like, the move doesn't even have to land. Like, it doesn't have to, like, you know, hit the opponent while they're not blocking. I think it's just based on, like, them just losing health in a short amount of time. Like, losing a ton of health in a short amount of time. Because, like, in that Kung Fu Bunny fight, you saw that he was clearly blocking, and the spinning attack actually, like, dizzied him, which is insane. And you see the full power of the spinning attack right there. It did so much freaking chip damage, yo, because it hits multiple times. So it's a really effective attack for facing some of these AI. Unfortunately, you only get it like 6 fights in, so you can't use it as early. Nothing remained but his cloak. Faintly from the sky above, laughter could be heard. Yo, okay, do panthers laugh? Is he a hyena or a panther? I don't know. Like, that's something a hyena would do, I feel. I don't know what panthers are like, but yeah. So, rolling attack is done by holding down for at least a second and then pressing A twice. This move sucks. Now, in the Sega Genesis version, it's actually just a quarter circle motion, just down, down, forward, forward. And it's a fast attack. It's not unblockable or whatever, it doesn't do chip damage, but it is really fast. It's a cool move. But because it's a charge motion here and blocking doesn't count, like, you have to specifically hold down to do it, it's garbage. Because that's 1 second of you not attacking just to do a move that's not even, like, it doesn't even deal chip. So what's the point? Like, it's just a bad move, don't ever use it. Thank goodness it wasn't like... Because when I first played through this game, I was nervous. I'm like, oh, please don't let this move be, like, the third move you learn, because that means I wouldn't be able to get spinning attack until like 8 fights in. Anyways, we are close to the end of this game. This is Karate Croc. He is going down extremely fast thanks to spinning attack. And yeah, with that, we are pretty much at the final battle. And just like the 32X game, you do learn one extra move after you defeat the Dali Llama. You'll see that later. Alright. The Croc hissed in hate. "I vow vengeance!" he screamed. He dived into the water and disappeared into its depths. So because there's only 10 fights in total, if you want to learn the rest of the moves, you'd have to like play through the second loop or whatever. There's multiple loops, the game is endless. But yeah, if you want to learn all of Foxy Roxy's moves, you would have to keep playing after the ending and credits. Because if you press start during the cutscene of the ending, that's when it will start the next loop of the game, and you'll be able to learn more and more moves. Or you can just use a password and like do it that way too. Anyway, I did show there that if you want, you can just like switch Dali Llama's character into someone easier. But I will explain how to defeat him as Foxy Roxy. So here we go. Even though this run went well, I'm pretty sure I actually lost here, but I'm still going to explain the general strategy. So immediately jump forward and then jump forward again and go back to the strategy right here. So yeah, and now you can see the problem with the strategy in that sometimes it can just go wrong. So maybe I might as well talk about this right now. Start of the fight, immediately jump to the right. Just immediately, like at the start of the match, I was already holding up and forward just to be ready to jump. And then once he smoke attacks under you, that I should mention that smoke attack move he does. You didn't really get to see it that much in the 32X game. Invincible, and it deals a lot of chip damage. And if you block it, he would just do it again. So just making him invincible again. So it's just, you have to be aggressive against this boss. If you give him an inch, he will barely shows any signs of like you letting him hit him. Because again, like if you block the smoke attack, even if you try to hit him immediately after blocking it, he would just immediately do smoke attack again, and your attack will go right through him and he'll hit you. So this is really a fight where you have to show absolutely no mercy. You have to just go on the full offense and not give him any room to breathe. And you can see that it's going pretty well here. I'm doing the jump kick into the crouch kick strategy, but because this is Brutal Paws of Fury, specifically the Sega CD version, the CPU would decide if you want to win or not. And he decided that I was not going to win this fight. And yeah, I actually did. I was so close to beating this without losing too. But like, I really didn't want to play through this again. In fact, this was actually like I think this was like my 6th attempt. Because the previous attempts I was trying to beat it without losing. But at this point I said screw it. And they would just keep playing and like go through with it. And I'm glad I did, because something screwed up happened in this round in particular. This is a successful attempt, I should mention. Now I use the same strategy here, but instead of sweep, when I do the jump kick, I immediately start spamming spinning attack in order to deal a bunch of chip damage and just kill him. Just get it over with, get him in the corner, do it. So here we go. Jump forward, then jump forward, jump kick, and then do it again. And now I'm going to spam spinning attack to chip him out. Now look at his health. I'm about to run the round right here, but pay close attention to when I defeat him. Here it comes. It's coming. Something magical is about to happen in a bit. What could it be? Hold up. I just need one more clean hit. I'm pretty much panicking at this point. He's one hit away. What's about to happen? Surely I defeat him right here, right? One more hit. Here it comes. I defeat him, and he still hit me. And then he dies. And then I taunt. I don't know. This game is rude. I really don't want to imagine if like, what if I didn't have enough health there? Would it be like a double knockout? I don't know. Okay. The llama laughed with joy. At last, someone worthy enough to take my place. Here, take this belt of heaven. It is yours. Now I can live. You are the new keeper of the belt. With that, he turned into smoke and shot off into the sky. And yeah, that was Brutal Paws of Fury for the Sega CD. Now, I'm not going to show the credits and Foxy Roxy's ending yet. I'm going to say it again because I'm about to show off all of the endings at the end. So you can always just see it there. And coming up, I'm about to just talk about how I feel about the game and all that. Just about the series as a whole. So hopefully stick around for that. And yeah, coming up is my thoughts on the game. Alright, and in this part of the video, I'm just going to talk about how I feel about this game as a whole, and afterwards it will be all of the endings for the Sega CD and 32X ports. So, Brutal Paws of Fury. I'm gonna be real, I feel like I slacked on the Sega Genesis version. I definitely went into it with like in a pretty bad mood. Like, because as I was doing the guide for it, I was getting more and more tired of just playing it as a whole, and I was just getting very sick of it. And after playing giving it more time, playing the MS-DOS version, playing the 32X port and the Sega CD port, I think I can finally give a real honest opinion on how I feel about the series as a whole. The positives. I do think the characters and the lore is really cool. I can't think of many fighting games where like you read the manual and you just get so much lore off it. Like all the characters have these cool backstories and all that. They all have their reason for wanting to get the Belt of Heaven and defeating Dali Llama. It's just really cool stuff. Some of the character designs are pretty cool too. Now, obviously, it's just anthropomorphs like doing karate and all that. And yeah, you could make the meme of haha fox with boobs or whatever, so hot or whatever. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I just think the characters look cool. In fact, I actually surprisingly, Dali Llama is my absolute favorite. It would have been so much cooler if he was wearing what he had in like the animated intro, like with like the pants and like the wraps and all that. Like he looked so cool right there. But unfortunately, that's about it. Like the positives really is just this game aesthetically. Like I think the stages look pretty cool. The characters have a good amount of animation to them, even though if they don't have many unique normal attacks. It's mostly the command normals that are unique. Like, light, medium, and heavy are usually the same. It depends. But aesthetically, this game is alright. And as for the music, it's 50-50. I despise the Sega Genesis and 32X music a lot. I don't ever want to hear those songs again. But I do think the Sega CD music is pretty good, and I really, really love the OST to the Super Nintendo music. I really love the Super Nintendo version music-wise. And unfortunately, that's where my praise ends, because despite this game having some cool stuff aesthetically, the gameplay is absolutely awful. I hate the whole unblockables of the other ports. I hate how this one feels as well. It just supports this whole offense nonsense. Maybe in a 2-player match for the Sega CD port specifically, it could be more interesting since blocking is actually viable. But the fact that you have to input passwords and then even when you input a password for your character to get all your moves unlocked, if you switch characters, you have to input a password again. At least I'm pretty sure that's what happened when I tried to play this, like just practicing against like no one on the second controller. I was just practicing against myself. But like, just having to input multiple passwords and all that is so corny, dude. Like, it makes me wonder that any of them, like, I feel like the devs, all they had to do was just play any other fighting game, and this mistake would have happened from the start. Or, I don't know, maybe they could have made a much better fighting game to begin with. And that's what I hate the most. It's similar, man, I mentioned this game so many times, I know. It's kinda, not quite, it's kinda how I feel with Beast Wrestler, where this game had so much potential. It could have been good. And maybe it could have been if they just, I don't know, played some other fighting games and learned from those. But unfortunately, it still sucks. If you like this game, that's cool, but I don't. And hopefully, this is the last time I ever have to play it. In any case, I hope you do enjoy the endings. I'm pretty much done. I've completely had enough of this game as a whole, but again, if you like this game, that's fine. It's just I can't do this anymore. If you got the patience for this one, good for you, but I don't. And yeah, coming up are the endings.